I I asked the young guys to lead it today, and to bring some content today. So I'm gonna just let them go ahead and introduce whatever they want to introduce, and we'll go from there. So maybe I can simplify it by asking, what do you have on your mind, or um, but how was you? I mean, tell me about your week.
Well, I had a another interesting week. Mm, it was it was like pretty tough because I was like thinking on what you had told me last I think it was the last men's meeting, and I was in my thoughts trying to think about what are the problems. Why am I feeling this way, and trying to address the causes or the direct problems I was having, and I was just like going through that, just trying to understand, what can I do about my problems with how I handle things when it comes to stuff that I feel that goes against what I believe in. I'm very harsh with that, and in turn, I'm very harsh with myself whenever I find myself doing things that I don't believe in, or whenever I feel like I've done wrong. I'm really harsh on myself and on other people when it comes to that. And yeah, I was just spending my entire week just thinking on that subject, and I haven't. I mean, I concluded some things, and I didn't know if these things that I concluded in my time of thinking about them were correct, or correct conclusions, or the right conclusion to draw out of when I was thinking about these difficulties, and about the direct issue with the cause of why I feel this way. And one of the conclusions that I had drawn to, one of the first conclusions I had come to, and I had talked to Jalen about that it felt like, well, I concluded that the reason why I may have be having some of these problems is um that I had lied to my dad during a kind of a stressful stressful situation. I felt like I had spoken. I was being either. I felt like I was lying, and I was eh, speaking like half truth. I half committed to. I wasn't like fully committed to something that my dad was wanting me to commit to, and it was something that I felt in the moment that I had said out of desperation to escape a situation that I that I didn't want to be in. And so, stop being around the bush. There was this occasion where I had punched or punched my brother in the face. I had swung at him, and Uh, I did it because there's a whole point. I had punched him and struck him in the face, and then my brother went to my dad, told him what had happened, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna be in trouble. It's something that I did because I felt I was wronged or something, and I did it. And he was my dad's response to it was like he was tired of it. He was tired of my brother coming to him and telling him that I had struck him, but because I did this many times before. And so he's like, this it felt like this time he's like he's gonna put his foot down, and like this is not gonna happen again. It was kind of his mindset, at least to me. And so he had locked me up into my room. He told me that I'm not allowed to come out. I'm not allowed to leave my room for anything besides to go, I think, to have food and to use a restroom. But I'm not to talk to anybody. I'm not to talk to anyone else inside the house or to talk to anyone at all. I had all my electronics confiscated and put it into his room, and that he gave me the Bible, and he told me to read. I forget what chapters they were specifically, but it was a story about David, and he wanted me to read throughout the entire story about David to at least come to uh, understanding why what I did was wrong. And at first, I was like really mad at him because like it was just I guess a stressful situation to be put in because I've never experienced anything like that where I'm locked in my room and I'm not really allowed to say anything, and basically I was just isolated from everybody. Kind of felt well, it kind of felt like been kicked out, and I was supposed to glean a message from reading the story of David. At first, like the first day, I didn't want to read it. I didn't want to read the Bible about some story because I was very angry with like how I felt I was handled in that situation. And I eventually he had given me a week. I think it was like a week. I would have had by the end of this week, by the end of that week, I would supposed to have finished reading David and have at least a message they're supposed to glean an understanding from reading the story. And by the end, if I couldn't come with it, I forget the specifics, but by the end of that week, I was supposed to be, sent out of the house. He was going to take me to DFW and put me on a plane to go live up there with Uncle Tracy because and it seemed like he didn't want to have to deal not 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 deal with the problem, but to make sure that this doesn't happen again because he's tired of it, and he felt like he wasn't really, I guess, equipped to correctly orient myself in that regard. So he brought up that whole thing about that if a man does not know how to treat his family, then that he should be sent away to a guy who to another Hebrew person who knows how to how to live, and he's supposed to stay with him for 7 years so that he can in turn have more of a foundation and know how to live. And so that was that whole idea. That was the whole plan. Well, after I finished reading the story of David, I couldn't really glean the whole message. I couldn't really glean a message out of, or I couldn't glean an understanding out of the story of David. I understood some things about David's story, but I couldn't see how that reflected into my situation, in my situation, and that when the day came, and I, I'm maybe misremembering, the day came where it was time for me to go. And took me all the way up to DFW, and I was still being, pouty and kind of furious with him. I was angry with him, and he was sitting there talking to me about, you know, about family and about these other things, and about, I forget, but in that moment there was, I forget, a point to where he, I think, said something. I don't remember, but it was some sense of, all right, I'm gonna try not to, or I'm trying to commit myself to, I forget, but there was something in there that was, um that was something important in there, and I, for some reason I can't remember, but there was something important in that conversation that was supposed to, like, commit myself to, having, establishing a foundation. That's, remember it, because I told my dad that I didn't have a foundation. Felt like I didn't have much of a structure, and throughout that entire car ride I felt kind of dejected. I kind of felt like I had my hands thrown up in the air, and that I was for some reason I couldn't, get myself out of this situation. I felt like I was just continually just falling without any semblance of me. No, like I'm falling with no sense of self-preservation. Like I'm not trying to get out I'm not trying to get out of falling off a cliff. And that's just how I felt with that. And then there becomes a moment where my dad's looking into me, I believe, to see some type of resolve, to want me to change, to see, to have like some type of structure, so I can look and handle things in the right way, and so that what happened on that what happened when I punched my brother doesn't happen again. And throughout that entire conversation, and in my mind, I was just thinking of the story of Cain and Abel, and I viewed myself as Cain, because I let um aspects of my anger, like, take over me, and I could see that maybe in the future that I may I might end up doing what Cain did to his brother, which would where he killed his brother, and I might do some other things to the people, like if I got married and I lost my temper, harm someone that I shouldn't harm, and that was a really tough thing. It's something I understood that it may happen, but in my mind I felt justified in what I did, because I didn't go out of my way to harm them. I felt justified because, well, they riled me up. I was riled up, and my brother pushed my buttons, and hit these specific parts, which made me feel, agitated, and made me feel angry with him because he, hit these little buttons, and so I reacted that way. And I'm getting a bit sidetracked. And yeah, and my dad was saying that that in marriage, if you get married, your wife's gonna push your buttons a lot harder than if it was if it was my brother doing that to me. It's, just the nature of being married. She's gonna make you even more angry than what I had experienced with my brother. And so I had told him that I would like commit to at least try to. I forget what I said to him, but I felt in that moment I was supposed to feel committed to at least trying to obtain some type of structure so that this thing or this type of situation doesn't happen. So I have some sense of, I guess, order. And I had felt that, crap, I forget. I had felt that there was just like, after the whole situation, we came back to the house, and my dad talked about family and what that means in Hebrew, and it was a like really important thing on family, and it kind of instilled this, I wouldn't, why would I want to hurt my brother because he's my family, he's my blood, and someone I care for. I don't wish, I was going in my mind, I don't wish to harm him. I don't wish to ever be put in a situation like a Cain and Abel situation where I would be killing my brother because I didn't want to do that. That's not what I wanted to happen, because I didn't hate my brother for what he did or how he is. I didn't hate him. And in the end, when he started talking about, I felt this sense of guilt for, in my part, feeling that I was kind of wishy-washy. It felt like I had said what I said, or put this commitment in a sense of desperation, that I really wasn't 100% there. Like I wasn't 100% committed to this. I felt like I was just trying to avoid a negative outcome, a very negative outcome. So that's partly where I started feeling that heavy guilt, and then felt a feeling of shame because I made this decision in a moment where like I wasn't being sincere. And that's something that had been like kind of eating me up, is that I don't there's always this doubt whenever I did something, that you're not being sincere about what you said. You just said that in the spur of the moment to get out of punishment or get out of having to be kicked out of the house. And that really, I guess, really tore me up. And
I understand. Very interesting what you shared, Chris. I would say, wow, I wasn't expecting all of that. What I would say right now, and then I'll let everybody else comment, or if they have something to share on that. I cannot impress in our minds enough that we are behavioral. So meaning why you hit your brother, or what made you hit your brother is like saying something that is is just a way of saying it, something that is foreign has entered your blood cell. So meaning we are behavioral. I'm trying to show through that example, maybe not a good example, but through that example, that it is something, there's a cause to why you responded the way that you responded. I would say that. One of the questions that what came to my mind that I would ask you is, would you say that you have a temper?
Yes.
Okay. I had a temper when I was younger. So many things you said just opened up so many things to my mind, reminded me of me as a child. I had a temper. And some of those, what a temper is, one way of saying it is, what a temper is a elementary or a immature way of expressing your feeling or your pain or whatever, your disappointment. That's not all of what it is, but that's a part of it. I wanted to kind of focus on that. And so it's a immature way or an elementary way. You have people that are older that have a temper. So part of the structure that I've shared in times past, and I'll say it again, at the point of your unresolved trauma, that means that you've had a point of trauma in your life. At the point of your unresolved trauma is where your growth, mentally, emotionally, those kind of things, where it stops, so to speak. And so the voice or your expression and how you express, the ways that you express things is generally at the point of that unresolved trauma. Did that make sense?
Yes.
So I would say that how you responded, you were trying to express something. You were trying to express, there was something you were trying to express. And over the years, I have not been heard, or over the years, I have not had the opportunity to freely be able to express myself. So this area matures, then it will come out like something like that. You know, I hit my brother, whatever. That's behavioral. So it also shows that it is very, very important to have what I just said, connected to what I just said. It's very, very important to have a filtering out system continually so that it does not build up. Because if you are not expressing yourself in the times and in the ways that you need to, if you are groomed in a way to where it's not safe, I don't feel safe to express myself. I'm going to be judged. I'm not understood. Any of those kind of things, it will create a buildup. And that buildup will be expressed in different ways, but the majority of times it is not the proper way to express what you are thinking or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, which this is common. So I wanted to share that. I also would say, don't look at yourself like Cain. You know, I would encourage you not to do that. It was so many things that were coming to my mind. I can't remember all of them, but that's the little piece that I would add at this point to that.
And what you said was able to help me reorganize my thoughts on what had happened. And there was this point, like after, I think it was like the same day after I shot my brother, my dad had challenged because I was on the walk home to my house after what had happened on the bus. I was angry, and I was, in this little whole thing of that, I was furious over like what was happened and what had happened. And on the walk home, I was just like waiting for my dad to come home to, um, come in home, and because he would usually just come home after I did something like that, or come home and then, lay down the judgment. And in that moment, I was sitting there, I believe, with my mom, and I was just reasoning with her, saying, well, how I felt justified in what I did because he made me feel this type of way, and I acted out on that feeling, and that I understood, that's not how you should handle things. But when my dad came home, he had like gotten frustrated with me, and so we had this little moment where we had clashed, kind of, where he was talking to me and just, my mind just like tearing me up and telling me, what you did wasn't right, and that he's, sick and tired of having to deal with this, dealing with you having this anger in you, this tension, this buildup of tension, and Shane, well, and then my brother did all the things that he was supposed to. He tried to distract and pull away, and do all the things our parents had told him to do, because I'm this way. I handle things that way, and that, like, if he said this one thing that that really not challenging, it was something that was, I guess, like kind of eye-opening, kind of surprising, that he told me that if there's anyone that you want to like strike, or you want someone to hit, then to hit him, to punch him in the face in the same way that you did your brother. And I had this little conflict in my head, because I was still, angry with, I was so angry, and in that moment, I could thinking in my head that, I could punch him in the face, because he said that, and I was like fighting myself back. He's like, that's not what you are supposed to do. And I had this moment of like, I can't punch my dad because like even when I'm this way and even the way I feel like that I'm angry or frustrated or feeling I have this temper, I couldn't go to him and just punch him in the face. That was something that I just couldn't do. And I had I kind of wrestled that, and it was like kind of like not like a shock, but just something that I really thought about. And I had gone up to my room after he told me all about basically what my punishment was for that, and I said something to him that I regretted because it wasn't something that I truly believe. I didn't really believe in what I was saying when I said it. It was just in the heat of the moment. But I remember he was about to leave for somewhere. I think it was like the next day, and I just screamed out that I told him that I hated him, and I had never said that to my dad before, and it was something that I regretted as soon as those words had left my mouth because it wasn't something that I truly believed or a way I truly felt. I just felt in the moment that I was. It was really tough to talk to my dad and try to, I guess, reason with them over why I did what I did, and it just after I said that, I was just like, I just threw my hands up and just said like, screw it. If if I'm supposed to be look at this, if I'm supposed to be this bully, if I'm supposed to be this the way I treat people, if I'm perceived as this bully, like this bully, I'm going to, in a sense, be this bully. And that was the this mind that little mindset that I had, or not mindset, it was just that thought I had in that moment because because that because the entire thing. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
Hey,
Okay.
Chris, I have a direction for you to look at, man. Um, when you said that your brother made you angry, your brother has never made you angry. You are angry. All right. Your dad doesn't make you angry. You are angry. A man who has a wife, his wife doesn't make him angry. He is angry. And I would look at that. You have to direct yourself toward your anger. And as someone who's dealt with anger issues a lot in my life, my suggestion is that you cannot use guilt and shame and feel bad about punching your dad or brother to reduce your anger. The only way that I know to really deal with your anger is to embrace it. Imagine you have this anger that's like inside of you, right? And you don't like that anger inside of you, right? It bugs you. You hate it. It's something you want to get rid of, but you need to hug it. Take that anger, embrace it like you would just hug it because you're not a bad person because of it. Okay. And when you embrace it, I do believe that you'll be able to confront it much easier without fear, shame, and guilt, and find the root of that anger. Because when you alleviate the root of what you're angry about, your confrontations with other people are going to change. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't change your confrontations without first addressing why you're so angry. And like I say, man, there's no condemnation for being angry. I'll be the first to say that you're probably justified for being angry. You have a right to be angry. You probably should be angry for whatever reason that you're angry. That's not a bad thing. You're not wrong. Embrace it and, find it.
Mhm.
If that makes sense to you.
It does. And with that, the whole point of what I was saying is that when I had this clashing with my dad seemed like he had just smacked it, like just he overtook my temper. And when I started, put my temper on him and we were having this clash, then he goes with his temper, his frustration, and we have this clash. My temper I lose. I could not compare in the sense of like how angry my dad could get. And after that we had this clash, I was like left with the pieces of it. And I felt like I couldn't get angry, like even like many months after, I couldn't get angry at all. I couldn't get physical. I couldn't, fight, and I couldn't usually have fights or get frustrated. I couldn't get frustrated because it felt like like whatever I had in that moment with my temper, or this is my fire in that, was just snuffed out in that moment after we had this clashing effect. And it felt that I was kind of robbed of something that I had no passion in anything after what had happened. And it felt like I was just left with a husk, like the aftermath of that conflict. And it felt really, really weird because like I wasn't I couldn't get furious. I couldn't get overly emotional about stuff. I couldn't, in terms of school, I couldn't get passionate about things. I had felt this big emptiness and like in my heart. I didn't have whatever fire that was there. It was just snuffed out and gone. And I felt really just lost. And I felt like I couldn't do anything.
I think that this kind of ties into a topic that we had wanted to discuss. And so the first thing that I'll like start with is Jeremiah 5:1. It's something that I kind of heard you talking about in your story. It says, "Run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now and know, and seek in the broad places thereof. If ye can find a man, if there be any that executeth judgment, that seeketh the truth, and I will pardon it." Yeah, so kind of what we wanted to present to talk about, and I think that you talked about some of it, is the differences between envy, jealousy, and covetousness, as well as what trusting patience looks like, if that makes sense. So what I've been hearing you talk about is, and even what Chad said, what Uncle Tracy said, is getting to the root or the foundational part of a problem, not just looking at the symptoms. So don't just say, oh, you hit your brother. Don't look at it like that. Don't look at it from a negative perspective and that you are Cain or that you are bad. And so even with the story of David, this is something that me and Uncle Tracy have talked about. What I kind of heard you say is being able to, I forgot the word again, prioritize and order feelings. So I think the gist of what they were trying to say to you is that feelings are not necessarily bad. Feelings have a place, though. There is a place for feelings. And so when you talk about the story of David, he it's interesting because I almost feel like what you said at the end, where it's like he had been very angry. Hey, why are these people encompassing me about? Like, just different things like this. He had been very where it's like, why is it a bad thing when I do it? Why is it that I can't do some of the same things that other people can? And what happened? Where it's like, again, so the reason I brought up Jeremiah 5:1 is that man that we're supposed to find, I feel like, is the foundation for Abba Father. And so you talked about how your dad's anger almost swallowed yours. You felt that after that confrontation, I mean, you couldn't get feelings to basically arise from that point. And so, yeah, I just find it interesting that what the topic that we wanted to bring up is about foundation, is about how to protect an eternal thought process, how to protect and prolong life. That's just kind of bits and pieces that I had heard you hit on. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Yeah, what some of the stuff that you had said is kind of how like I felt. I felt like, why are some other people allowed to do this, but why am I? Well, why is it me, or I can't do the things as all my other peers? I had felt that, and I came to at least understand that. Well, I can't do what they do because I'm me. Because y'all had made me some made me this way. So because made me this way, and the fact that I shouldn't, and I shouldn't, and I can't do what everyone else around me is able to do, and it felt like it was kind of like a sense of responsibility.
All right, Chris, can I ask you a question? Not to just interrupt you, or I'm sorry for interrupting you. I need context of what you mean by you can't do what other people do. Are you saying that, for instance, you couldn't control your anger? Give me context to what you mean by I couldn't do what other people do.
Okay. The context would be that, like, in school, I could always see other kids do bad stuff that I was told that you shouldn't be able to do, or stuff that you shouldn't do. I saw them doing it, but whenever it seemed like I would do these wrong things, felt that I was punished, and I'm like, well, they got off scot-free. Why am I being subject to punishment for something that someone else can just get away with? And yeah, that's it.
That makes sense. There's a lot of meat on the bone there. I am trying to something that. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna agree to what you were saying. There is a lot of meat on the bone, and I can definitely relate especially with our, background and having a lot of people that that we knew or we met through school or through other things, that their lifestyle or was a lot different from us, so can understand where he was from, uh, that particular aspect. So I just wanted to, agree with that.
Let me say this, and I think Chad did a good job of explaining, embracing anger. I want to go into a little bit more of a part of the way I see that is, in essence, when I hear him say embrace it, he may mean something a little different, but I think he described it is it's not, anger is not a bad thing. It's the expression, I mean, it's not bad. So it's something that you have to, when you have it, you can't look at it as this is wrong to be angry. You can't look at it at things like that. So I wanted to clarify that, but there is some, I can't remember what it was. It was a question I was going to ask you, Chris. So you feel like it's in the area, you feel like other kids, basically, you would be at school and they would do something bad, they would cut up or whatever it is, and they would get away with it. And whenever you try to do it, you couldn't get away with it. There's some questions I have there. So I guess what I would do is say, can you give me an example? Well, you tried to get away with something like what? See, I'm connecting it with your, I'm trying to connect it. I'm connecting it with your first comment with your relationship of the things that happened with you and your dad, you hit your brother and the things that happened. And I'm trying to see if it connects to that. I hit my brother and I couldn't get away with it. I'm trying to find a good base here.
I understand. So there isn't really much connection between those two parts. Just kind of like something that's off the side. But to answer your question, one example would be, I remember when I was a kid and you were supposed to like form up a line to go use the restroom. And how everyone's supposed to have, they form up a line, they have a leader in the line, and everyone follows the line in behind. And everyone's trying to line up, use the restroom. One of my classmates had skipped the line, gotten in front of me or something after using the restroom. I went up and told the teacher, like, hey, he just skipped me or something like that, or he just skipped in the line. And she just came over and just started scolding me. And I was like, what? But he did, but sometimes when I would skip the line and someone else would call and snitch on me, the teacher would come over and scold on me for doing it, but they wouldn't scold it on it when my other classmate did it to me. And it was like one of the points of frustration that I had because I'm like, I'm not equal. There's no, felt I was a sense of injustice that I've been wronged and you haven't rectified that wrong.
Okay, thank you. I understand very clearly. Very interesting. I'll open it back up for comments.
I'd like to add something really quickly. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Like Chris, I know for me, one of the things wasn't necessarily like that like I would be held accountable for things that not not like in a public sense, that things that I did or didn't do. But like it was a hard pill for me to swallow, that I felt like people can do things and not feel guilty about it afterwards. And that's the type of stuff that would like eat me up alive. So even if no one else even like said like, oh hey, you can or you can't do this, you know what I mean? It's okay if they do this, okay if you can't do this. Like for me, the inner struggle that I would have for just trying to like exist the way other people existed would be super tough for me. It'd be a super hard pill for me to swallow. You understand what I'm saying? Even like mistreating people sometimes, that was always super hard for me. Because I felt like that would be something that people would take advantage of for me, you know what I mean? And then B, like if I ever did like mistreat someone, I feel like I would lose more sleep than the person that I mistreated. And that's like super hard. Like it's like a hard thing to come to terms with, of being different in a sense, you know what I mean? Especially when you can see things kind of clearly. So, I mean, I don't necessarily have an answer, but I definitely 100% understand, I guess, what you're getting at. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like it's not that you want to be just as bad as someone, but you just want an even playing field. And that's not the case. You know what I mean? That's not necessarily the world that we live in. And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow sometimes, for sure, you know?
Yeah. Man,
Yeah, and
definitely. My bad.
no, go ahead, Chris.
Definitely what you said, Nate, is something that I had extremely felt that sense of guilt whenever I did something that I wasn't supposed to. I felt that guilt right then and there because like, well, you weren't supposed to do that. I mean, you see all these other people doing it, and you did it just like bandwagon effect, that you hopped on and did something that you weren't supposed to, like everyone else. But you get hit with the guilt that, man, you did that and that was wrong. You shouldn't have done that. Your parents told you you're not supposed to do that. And yeah, that was it.
Okay, I sorry, I was trying to look up something and give a little bit of context, and I'll give a little bit more context to what I think you're really saying, Chris. I'm going to read it. It is Psalms 10. And I'll just read a little bit of it, and you tell me if this is really what you're talking about. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. The judgments are far above out of his sight. As far as his enemy, he puffeth at them. He has said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. So I'll stop there. I don't know what you're hearing. There's another part. There's some other parts. But if you could hear the first part of what the writer said, why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou self in times of trouble? In other words, I can read that as people getting away with stuff, people doing things, and they're getting away with it. God is as if they are not, he's standing afar off. He's not, they're getting away with those kind of things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does
Yes.
that kind of fit what you're saying?
Yes.
This is interesting because the writer, the person who is speaking that Psalms, is someone who is trying to do right. It's someone who is trying to live right or live according to, if we can say, what God wants, how he wants someone to live. He's trying to live that way. And he turns over here and he looks and he sees that these people are getting away. They're doing things and getting away with it. So one of the things that I want to establish is the way you said it, Chris, was that I saw someone doing something wrong, and in essence, I wanted to do that wrong too. I am not sure that is accurate.
Yeah.
So if you see what I just did, I want to live right. I want to do right. I want to do certain things. And I look and I see people getting by with it. And so then I try to get by with it. Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to start from the basis of I want to do what's right. I don't like taking advantage of people. I don't want to take advantage of people. I'm not trying to take advantage, because a person who gets in front of other people take advantage of people. So if I came straight to you and I said, do you want to take advantage of other people? You would have said no. That I can't stand it. That makes me mad when people take advantage of other people. That's the core of what I would think that you're coming from, if you follow how I'm doing this. So it's not. And so now we need to make a distinction between, it helps you understand human behavior, all of those things. We need to make a distinction between someone who is really wanting to do right, and they see someone doing something wrong, and so they say, well, why can't I do it? And someone who really has in their mind to take advantage of people. Did that make sense?
Yes.
You need to make a distinction between the 2 points. Someone that is seeing something and trying to do it, and someone who is really, really trying to take advantage of people. If you could look at someone who is taking advantage of people, I'm going to stop here after this statement. This is something that Chad has preached for quite a while on Facebook. If you look at people who take advantage of people, the leading cause is fear. The leading, what causes them to do what they do is fear. It's the word fear. So you need to understand what fear is. You need to be able to identify what fear really is. It's not necessarily being afraid. It's not a feeling of just being afraid. It's much more than that. All right. So a person that sees someone taking advantage of someone, I'm trying to put it back together. A person that sees someone taking advantage of someone and then they go, hey, why can't I do that? Why do I get punished? Or why do I get punished for this particular thing? To several points there. One is that person is not necessarily doesn't always have to be coming from fear that's making them do that. To me, a person has not distinguished something, and if they distinguish it, they would determine that they don't want to do that. That's one. The other point is what Jalen is actually bringing out. Is it envy? Is it jealousy? Or is it covetous? Is it envy? Is it jealousy? So if I'm looking at someone that is getting by with something, and I feel like I should be able to do it too, is it envy? Is it jealousy? Or is it covetous? So that's going to connect what Jalen is saying. I'll stop there, let you or whoever else speak. Let's see if we can catch on with what Jalen was trying to present, because it connects.
Ain't nobody got nothing? Mac? Mike?
I'll add something really quickly. Oh, go ahead. You're good.
No. I'm waiting on y'all.
I was gonna say, for me, I think it was envy for me for sure. Like, I'll tell a quick story. Like, I remember I was working in a warehouse. I was actually working at Home Depot, and we used to have to. I worked in the overnight shift, like in freight. So we used to have to wrap these huge pallets, and it'd be like 16, 17 of these huge pallets we had to wrap, right? So the object was to take the plastic, you had to get super low, it'd be on the ground, and wrap the plastic around whatever the pallet was holding. And so like I'd be on like my seventh one, just like tired, man, like on my hands and knees wrapping this thing, make sure it was cool. And someone came up to me and was like, hey, you could just put this thing on a broom. And they went around it like 3 times and it was it. It was over. Now they intentionally told us not to do this. You know what I mean? But me, like, man, if everybody doing this, like, I'm finna do this too. Like, I'm not gonna be the only person not like working twice as hard for no reason. Well, we hop on the forklift and we have to put these things way up in the rafters. Like, if you ever go to Home Depot, you look way up top, there's a bunch of pallets up there. And one time we were putting it up there and everything fell off. Like, no one got hurt, but everything fell off. You know what I mean? And it's like something that you understand, like, oh, maybe you should be doing it right. I can understand it in that because it's very easy to understand in that specific state, but it's a little harder when like you don't see what the real reason is for doing something. Like, if you can't connect the real reason for like, I can see why this is important. It just feels like you're using a lot more energy trying to do what's right 9 times out of 10. So for me, it's never to like take advantage of someone. It's just like, I don't want to be the only person that's like using all of this extra energy when I don't have to be. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like it's envy anytime that I've experienced that, especially when I'm like super hard on myself about doing certain things. You know what I mean?
Bullseye, Nate, good stuff. envy. So we need to be able to determine some things here. I would ask this question, but I want anybody else has anything to add to that question or share. The next question that I'm going to ask is, what causes envy?
Something not being equal. I would say that, like, yeah, something not being equal, or something's not being evenly distributed or evenly handled.
Bullseye, Chris, something not being equal. There's still some meat on the bone on that question, but that is a good start. Something not being equal. What causes envy? There's still some meat on the bone.
I have a question. The difference between jealousy, envy, and covet, does it have anything to do with the two aspects of, as we've talked about, wanting to do the wrong that others want as compared to wanting to do the good that others do? Because you can, we've talked about seeing other people do wrong, and we're like, well, I want to get away with that too. That's one aspect. However, you mentioned earlier about, I see other people not get angry, and I want to not get angry. As opposed to, I don't want to be allowed to be angry. I desire to be like them and not get angry. So that's an aspect of good and positive desire as compared to the other. And I wonder if those have anything to do with the difference between jealousy, envy, and covet. And I don't know, so I'm asking.
Good question, Chad.
So I really want to hear what my brother has to say. But this, for me, again, it's interesting how if you have foundation, you're able to then get things that are, you're able to judge correctly. So even how Uncle Trace has been asking questions to make sure that it fits in. So I'm trying to talk to what you just talked about, Chad. Make sure it fits in the good category, quote unquote, or I want to do wrong because everybody else is doing wrong, and making sure that everybody understands the distinction between the two. And yeah, it's interesting because, again, it's like, this is a topic that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to bring up, and we got to it where I never understood the differences between envy, jealousy, and covetous. Like, where it's like, again, those are three synonymous. All of them are bad. You're not supposed to envy, you're not supposed to be jealous, and you're not supposed to covet. And then I got hit with the true of the words, if that makes sense, where I think that this is going to be a very interesting conversation, and I'm trying to find a way where we're all able to talk, where it doesn't just fall on Uncle Tracy, where we're the questions that we ask, the statements, the stories that we bring up, he's then able to connect, if that makes sense. Because another reason that I read Jeremiah 5:1 is for that reason. So when Chris was talking about being sent to another Hebrew man, I found that very interesting, because my stance when I first met Uncle Tracy was one of envy, not of jealousy, and I wouldn't say necessarily covetousness at that time, but it was envy. It was like, again, you got all these verses in the Bible that says, don't esteem a man over, all of this stuff. And I got a man over here telling me he knows what he's talking about. And the envy was coming from a negative place of what you were saying. It was coming from the positive. He has peace. He has something that I desire to have. It's not that he doesn't get mad. It's not that he doesn't make mistakes, but he has peace. He has the ability to stay even keeled throughout the roller coaster ride that we call life. And so I was just trying to bring that up because, again, it's like, it's interesting that we have a man who is able to help us distinguish between the true of things.
I'm gonna answer Chad's question, but it's a lot of meat on the bone in this question. Come on, guys, y'all can break this stuff down. Yes, Chad, there is, it has something to do with it. I like the way that how you connected. I didn't necessarily have that in my mind, but I like the way that you really connected the two of, you know, a person who is basically not a person who is wanting to do right and seeing something that someone is doing versus a person who is, I can't remember how you said it, but in essence, just have in mind to do something wrong. That's kind of the picture I got out of mind of what you're saying and what you were saying. But the answer is yes, it does have something to do with the illustration you gave has something to do with covetous and envy. Let's say that.
So I have some thoughts. I don't know if it's necessarily gonna answer like your correct question directly about what causes envy, but this kind of just what comes to mind just based off of this conversation is like what we had mentioned and pointed out last previously, I think. And I don't know if I say it in the right words, but basically we talked about how God doesn't judge people based off of their ignorance. And one of the things that kind of like I think about, especially with what we're talking about, what Chris has mentioned, with others, is like when you're talking about envy, or well, basically what I'm trying to say is there's this, you know, thought or this that, you know, way of thinking that is out there that life's not fair, or things aren't equal. But what really is equal at the foundation? Like what is really equal in God's eyes? Because what we have and what we see in our current condition of the world is not equality. And so I think, especially as, you know, you're growing up as a child or even as things get older, but what you've talked about pretty much so much, Chris, about like things that you experienced at school, you know, with teachers judging you a different way than other people, or, you know, so many other things. It's like, but how do we even know if like that things are equal, or all things are equal, because there's so much uncertainty or inequality in our system.
That's
So
Interesting. Go
I'll
ahead.
stop there. I'll land my point.
Well, so this is a hot topic or a hot take, but I would say that in the true sense, things aren't equal. A reason that we feel out of place is like what you're saying, we're not equal. And this is why I'm saying it's a hot take. I'm not coming at it from a negative, we're not equal. I'm coming at it from what you're talking about with uncertainty. That's what makes it not equal. That there's a certain foundation that is certain of everything that is going to happen. On that foundation, you are certain. And it's almost again, how, so I was talking to Uncle Tracy about the Greek phalanx, and that's kind of what I'm trying to talk about, where it's that mindset is one that has no equal. That mindset of doing for the brother is an eternal mindset and has no equal. Yeah, so I would just say that what the difference that I see between I'll say the left and the right of what Chad brought up. So somebody desiring to do good versus somebody that has, so with Psalms 10, somebody that has turned away and basically in their heart said there is no Lord. Yeah, that there's a foundation that has no equal. And that's the foundation that I'm trying to build upon, if that made any sense.
All right, would it help if I kind of establish a little bit of a base to kind of get us rolling as far as what they are, what envy is, what jealousy is, and what covetousness is? Would that help?
I have an answer for your question about what
Okay.
causes envy, but I have to answer it from my direction, which
Okay.
is a different direction. I know what helps me alleviate envy.
Okay. Shoot.
If I feel envy and envy rises up in me and I'm starting to feel it, I have to make myself more vulnerable, and that alleviates the envy.
Yes, always. Always vulnerable actually is the key. So, but I think vulnerable also could help in any one of the situations. It's always vulnerable. So whether it's envy, jealousy, or covetousness, vulnerableness is a major part of being able to come out of that state of mind. So on any three, envy, I'm listening to you all, it's very interesting. Envy, Jalen kind of touched on it. Sometimes people use the words synonymously: envy, jealousy, covetous. If you say, well, I'm envious of that person, I see something that they have and I wish I had it. And they might say, I'm envious of that. Somebody else might say, oh, I'm jealous of that. Or somebody would say, I'm covetous. No, you can use any of those words. They're not synonymous. They're almost not even related. Envy is only caused by what Chris Jr. said. It is caused by unequalness. But here's the context of unequalness. If there is any form of oppression, it causes envy. So little Chris, watch the, so it'll connect to, why did I hit my brother? Why did I hit my brother? It'll connect to that. Because envy is when you have someone rise up above another and he begins to lord over him and he begins to rule over him, whether it's in a family, whether it's in a husband and wife relationship, whether it's father and son, anything like that. If it puts up like that, it causes envy. So it only comes from oppression, no other thing. Now I'm going to tell you what jealousy is, and then we'll go back to envy. So we have to understand what envy causes and what envy looks like. Jealousy is not a negative or a positive. It is a neutral word. Envy is a negative. Jealousy in its beginning is neutral. Jealousy, real jealousy, which you don't hear this in our language today because it is evolved. The English language changes, it evolves, and it takes on a different shape. But its original was when something that belongs to you is taken from you, then that is the only thing that can cause jealousy. When something belongs to you is taken from you, then it causes jealousy. So for instance, if I were to use a scripture base, there's a scripture I looked at. I didn't do a good job looking for it the other day. I wish I had it and I'd have someone pull it up. But it talks about if a man is jealous of his wife or his spirit of jealousy or whatever, if he is jealous of his wife, in other words, he is suspicious. That's also a part of jealousy. It's suspicion, the word suspicion. He is suspicious that his wife has had an affair or is cheating on him. He has this odd feeling that this is happening, and there's a type of anger that starts being stirred up from that. All right, and this is what the spirit of jealousy looks like. It says that he is supposed to take his wife to the priest. And as he takes his wife to the priest, she is supposed to drink some water, a certain type of water. After she drinks the water, if her leg rots or if she rots, then it takes away the spirit of jealousy. That makes it a neutral. Think about what I said. It makes it a neutral. If her leg doesn't rot, it still takes away the spirit of jealousy. Because what it is showing is if her leg rots or if she rots, it actually reveals the truth that she actually had an affair. If she does not rot, it reveals the truth that she did not have an affair. It's the only way that the spirit of jealousy is removed. But what you're getting is this man's wife was taken from him. And what that is the cause of the spirit of jealousy. So you can say God is a jealous God. He's jealous of what belongs to him. And when it is lured or taken away from him, then there's a feeling of jealousy that comes. It is a neutral point. It is not a bad or a good per se. It's neutral. Did that
Uncle
make
Tracy?
sense?
Yeah. Hey, Uncle Tracy. I don't know if you might. I can read the verse. It's Numbers 5 and 14. I think it starts before 14, but where it gets into what you were
Okay.
just talking about.
All right. Great. Y'all can look at that. So this is how it deals with jealousy. There are other scriptures that deal with jealousy. Very interesting. In Proverbs, it talks about jealousy, either 6th or 7th chapter of Proverbs. And at the end of the chapter, it talks about if someone comes into your house and a man steals from you because he is hungry, it reveals that we are forgiven of them. Now, again, it is related to something that belongs to him is being taken away from him. Someone comes in my house and they steal food from me. Then it says that if he knows that it's for food, then it would take away. I mean, then it would not come up. Meaning that makes sense. This person is hungry, is starving. It would cause him not to have the spirit of jealousy. I forgot how from there it goes in and it talks about if someone takes a man's wife, it talks about the rage of that man in this chapter, and that no matter what you do or no matter what gift you give, if it is the spirit of jealousy that comes up from that, something like this, his wife being taken, there's nothing you can do to take it away. That the one that had the affair, that the one that took it can do to take that away. He would have that rage against you for the rest of his life. In essence, does that make sense? This is human behavior. That's jealousy. I looked it up, and I'm gonna use the English definition. Someone look up the word covetous real quick. And in short, what it is desiring something that someone has. Wanting something that someone has. The definition of that, the description of that is a little bit short of really giving a good picture. But it is simply wanting something that someone else has. Connected with Chad asked, covetous can cause someone from a superior position to go and get in front of someone else in a line. Envy can cause someone from an inferior position to try to get a hold of someone else in a line. Understand that. Looking from a very deficient, I don't have any value, I don't have any of that. Envy is always something that comes from valueless. I have no value. I have no value. And if you live in a world of valueless people, they will steal from each other. Black on black crime is a envy position. Why I hit my brother, if I have no value, is an envy position. Because value helps me to maintain my posture. It helps me to be able to judge correctly, as Jalen is pointing out. Value. If I know my value, there are areas that I say that this behavior is beneath me. And instead of me hitting, I command. Instead of me hitting, I use vulnerability. I use my mouth to express the violation that has been created. That is someone that has value. Envy is always coming from a valueless position. So when you have been a slave and something is drawing all of your resources to benefit, the thing that is drawing the resources is covetous. The thing that has no resources is envy.
And I would say, yeah, that covetous could probably come from a place of greed, like in David's story, where he saw this beautiful woman inside the fountain and knew that she was already married, and he took her anyways and sent the man away to get killed in the war. He already had wives, but he decided to take more.
Mhm. David was a king. And he had a man killed because he liked his wife. Not only did he like her, I think before he had this man killed, he had an affair with her. He slept with her, this man's wife. And then afterwards, he sent him out to war and he put him at the front of the battle and hoping that he would be killed somewhat to I believe, to hide his discrepancy, his wrongdoing. It's very interesting if you really think about that and human behavior, that at some point he acted, it looks like he acted upon some thought or feeling. And then once he did that, he recognized, I messed up. Then he went over here and tried to get rid of his mess up by putting this man in the front of the line to be killed. I would say there's a thin line there between covetous or envy, but it appears to be covetous. And the reason why I say that is because of David's position as a king. He has, in fact, it is very interesting that after he has Uriah killed, and Nathaniel or whoever it is, the prophet that comes to him and reveals all of this and tells him, thou art the man. When that whole exchange takes place with the prophet, what the prophet really revealed as to why David did that. And in short, it appears to me through that, I kind of lost my thoughts, so I'm patching it up. Hopefully y'all didn't catch that. I think that the prophet basically reveals that what he said to him reveals that he was, to me, covetous. It shows that there was a covetous point that David actually had at this point, because one, he was in the king. Oh, now it just came back to me. He said, the prophet told him, God spoke and said, you could have asked anything that you wanted. And we need to see what that means, because he didn't mean that you could ask for Uriah's wife. He did not mean that. Well, I want Uriah's wife. And God would have said, here, that's not what it meant. But the statement, you could have asked anything that you wanted and it be given to me, given to you, is also relevant to it being a covetous position.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question. I kind of want to, like, I guess, solidify the difference between being someone that's covenant and someone that's envious? Is the only difference that there's been an injustice that's been done in order for someone to do that? Is that like the only difference, or I guess I should say like maybe the major difference? If that makes sense, the question.
I was a little distracted. I was going outside because there was too much noise in the house. Can someone condense the question down for me?
He was wondering, is being envious, the point of being envious, is it just specifically on the point that there has been an injustice or an unequalness in envy? Or in that
Yeah,
sense?
if that's the only difference, I guess I'm trying to draw like a more solidified line between the two so I can understand the difference between the two a little bit better. Is that like the major difference that determines which one is which?
Well, what I tried to share, and then I may not answer. And if anybody else has an answer to that, please speak up. What I tried to share was, for instance, if you have a someone who is lording over you, they enslave you, they keep you in slavery, they teach you and they tell you, they make you feel like you have no value. You're only good for me to wipe my feet on, so to speak, in a certain way. As long as they're doing that and you stay in that environment and you begin to believe that you are the bottom, you will behave like the bottom. And envy is a bottom position. So I'll give you another picture of envy and the difference between covetous. Envy is always, have you heard of the crab effect? That means that people are impoverished or in poverty or whatever, anything like that. And anytime someone, your brother or a friend or someone you know is trying to crawl out of the bucket, the crab is trying to get out of the bucket, everybody has a tendency, or someone has a tendency to pull them back down. I'll give you another example. Frederick Douglass, of course, freed himself from slavery. He was an abolitionist. Not only that, he began to, over a period of time, feel some kind of official, I'm going to say government position or something like that. And so he was going over, I can't remember where, he was going over to a certain country. And he sat down at the table, and at this dinner table, they were on a boat or a ship, and there were other white men all around him. I think he was the only black man there. And the servants on the boat who were serving the food were black. The servants served all the white people, but it would not serve Frederick Douglass. And they said, because he is just like we are. He ain't no better, no special, nothing special, nothing. He's none of that. All right. So just because he has this title, or just because he has this name, just because he is it, I don't have that kind of respect for him. And so you see them pulling him back down where he belongs. That's one of the behaviors of envy. But it comes from Let me give you a scripture base too, a little scripture. The writer in James in the first chapter is talking about that. And there's a part of it that he says, let he that is of low degree be exalted. It's envy. That's the envious position. Let him be exalted. And he that is high, let him be made low. That is a covetous or an upper position. And it's saying that it has to humble. All right. The difference in how you work with someone who is envious is totally different than how you would work with someone who is covetous. The way to work with it is two different things. So hopefully, Nate, does that help a little bit? I may not be answering because I'm not sure I understand fully your question.
I have a picture of it that I think might help answer his question.
Okay.
What the picture I'm getting from everything is that the slave master covets. He covets the labor of the slave. The slave master cannot envy, he can only covet. The slave cannot covet what the slave master has, he can only envy what the slave master has because he has been oppressed by the slave master. Is that accurately?
That is accurate. And there's a scripture going along with that. Do not envy thou oppressor.
Oh.
If that connects.
Real quick.
Did that help, Nate?
Yeah, that makes
Go ahead.
perfect sense.
All right. I want to say this, and then Micaiah, you were going to say something. What happens when you envy your oppressor? So think about that. Don't envy your oppressor. That means that I want to be as I'm looking at him. And it's not saying don't pull my oppressor down. I envy him, so I'm trying to pull him down. It's not saying that. It's saying I look at him and I see him up here and I take on the same posture as he is taking on with my own brothers. That's the evidence of envying your oppressor. How I handle my brother or how I handle those that are like me is evident of me envying my oppressor. That's black on black crime.
Mac.
So I'd just like to add something, just taking it full circle back to what Chris was talking about earlier. Let's just use like the line example, like when you're in school and someone was cutting you. I think a proper understanding of that is whoever cuts you kind of coveted your position in the line, you know what I mean? And you in turn, if I understand what everything is, what's being said, it would kind of behoove you not to want to treat others the way the one who oppressed you has treated you. Do you know what I mean? It definitely doesn't solve like the frustration sometimes for sure, but it makes it a lot easier when you have like a more solid understanding. You know what I mean?
Right.
This might be a little off track, but I think that the expression of jealousy, not jealousy, but envy and covetousness comes from a lack of covering more often than not. A lot of times I think that we lash out or we try to protect something or be like the thing that looks like it's self-sustaining because again, we have problems with value, and what it looks like is us trying to kill off our innocence so that we can be self-sustaining. And that brings up jealousy, and it brings up envy, not jealousy, envy and covetousness, because we're trying to kill off or become like the thing that looks like it has value. But it's just an imitation of value.
Interesting, Micaiah. I think it connects. What you said connects. I can only share what it just brought to my mind, and I don't know if I'm fully. It connects, but I don't know. I'm like you. I don't know if this fully connects with what you said, but what it brought to the forefront of my mind was. I want you all to see envy real well. I knew this for a while. And I'm going to shorten it. Just because I had to work a job, and my wife, the way that we were taught was that the woman stayed home, and the Bible taught that she was a keeper of the home. And so women did not work. And to some degree, that created an envious point that I had. Now, I want you to relate to this. Here it is. I feel like I am working and having to slave and work as hard as hell. And my wife is at home. I understand the children thing. I understand how they look at it. At the time, I didn't have any children, things like that. And so my wife is at home, and she is not having to work. She had a free time, just different things like that. And so I wasn't jealous, it's envious. I was envy of that particular point. So what it made me do is come home and say, Bev, here's what I want for, and have high demands to make up for her freedom. It made me try to take away the freedom that she had based off of I am having to slave. Now I want you to think about something Jalen talked to me about today, which is very interesting. He talked today a little bit about somewhat the fix. I want you to think about this. If God is my provider, if God is my provider, if he is truly providing for me, is the ground conducive of envy? If God is providing for me, can a person be envious starting from I am always provided for? Micaiah said something. He said there was these jealousy, envy, and all of these things have to do with a lack of covering. If God was my provider from a, I don't know how to say it, from a standard point or a healed place, if life started out with God being my provider, and he was your provider, he was everybody's provider, so to speak, is the ground conducive of envy? Or can a person become envious?
I'm going to say no.
There's That's true. I know the argument, but I'm saying starting from a perfect position. So I'm going to try to clear it up a little bit. The argument is, some would say Cain and Abel, one was envious of the other, and so he had his brother slain. One was because God, so to speak, was accepting the sacrifice of this one, but he was not accepting the sacrifice of the other. Yeah. So they would look at that. Some people look at that as being envious of Abel. I'm not sure that would be the word that I would use for that. But the answer is no. As long as things are equal, as long as there's equality, true equality, the ground is not conducive of envy, only unless someone rises above another, the ground is conducive of envy.
So how would you explain what you expressed in your experience with your wife? You said that you felt like you were envious, or you felt like you could make further demands because of that, right? What was that if it wasn't envy?
I was saying that I had an envious position. What I was actually showing is how I felt like I was a slave. I was actually showing that I did not understand who my provider was. And when I understood who my provider was, I handled her as equal. That's what I was showing.
To break that down a little bit, I have gone through some of that recently, and I still go through it. There was I'll try to keep it short. A month ago, my wife asked me if I could start getting up with the kids because she was always getting up with the kids. And my first thought in my head, it was that I got up at the crack of dawn every morning before you had kids. I'll get up at the crack of dawn when you have kids, and I'll be getting up at the crack of dawn when you don't have to get up with those kids. And I said something to that effect. It wasn't as harsh, but I still said it. And not too long ago, I started getting up with the kids. I had to realize, and I think continual realization, that I could never use my work or my being a slave to justify not meeting a need. I could never use work. I could never use how bad my day was to be like, oh, well, my day was jacked up. So, and you didn't have such a bad day because you were at home and I have all these struggles. So I don't have to take care of you. As you received it, I told her I may not get up with the kids all the time. But my position now is that if I can, I will.
Good stuff, Mac. To go further, if all I do is use my strength to say that I cannot justify not using my work as a reason not to do something, supply a need. Remember, I want you to remember that envy is a valueless position, because the correct is to find your value. Just because I don't do something, because I see that this is bad or not good, and yet I don't find value, it will pop out somewhere else. That happens all the time. Envy is a valueless or something that is valueless or devalued. And because it has no value, it attacks, it does this, it reacts, and it needs value. Something that has value, as God is my provider, he's providing these things, I'm receiving, and as I receive, I give. I receive, I give. Now, if my tank is empty and I have not received something, not anything, my behaviors are going to reveal accordingly to whether I'm full or empty.
That's the language of a complete person, somebody who has their innocence intact. A lot of us, and I'm speaking about myself directly, did not start off with the standpoint of God as my provider. We started off with my parents who weren't complete. And so we lost our innocence. When innocence is lost, you will try and grab at anything that looks whole and complete, that imitates whole and complete.
Bullseye, Mac.
But this was I was thinking this is very interesting conversation. I was thinking about something that Tracy was saying about it just slipped my mind. You were saying something about just a little bit ago about about envy, and of course God being your provider. We were just, me and my 3 sons were outside and we were talking about this same thing, just the men's group, and I was explaining to them how that I would, because of the pressure that was placed on my back, and I would, from Egypt, I would come home and I would put that on her. She was saying, well, Mom, she's, and I would feel like she's got it easy. And I would do the same thing. I would try to put that weight on her. And I was explaining to them how that it caused so many problems. And a lot of times, these things, these weights can come in the form of debt. These debts that you get, it weights on your back. And when you have that weight in your back, it makes you feel like you gotta keep working, because if you don't work, if you don't provide, you make enough money, they're gonna take your car, they're gonna take your house, they're gonna do this. And you carry these weights. And then when you come home and you see your spouse or your significant other, they're not having to carry that, and it makes you somewhat envious of them. And then you want to take that and place that upon them. And so for a long time, I put a lot of weight on my wife's back to get a job. And it just caused a lot of problems. But on my journey to being, in my journey of healing, I began to see, and since what Tracy was saying, that God is my provider, I began to remove these weights from my back so that I don't place that upon my spouse. And that helped tremendously to clear up a lot of arguments and stuff like that. I was also thinking about what Chris Jr. shared. I really appreciate you for sharing what you shared. I know that you have struggled with guilt for a while, and it's something you're wrestling with. So when I heard you speak, what came to mind is you're trying to release something. You're trying to let go of something. And as you expressed yourself and as Tracy began to speak and explain things and ask questions, it became very clear where the source of the guilt is coming from. And so what I began to gather through that was that there was some envy in you. Envy is like a serpent. It's something as you're in an inferior position and you have someone in a superior position has something, and you desire that thing that they have. And so it creates a thought, this serpent in your mind. And in your mind, you'll do anything to get that thing that you need. Even if you got to step on someone. Well, what happens, and I see in my relationship with you, in my house, was that for a long time, I took the position as a Pharaoh. I copied, the scripture talks about how Israel built the city of Ramses and Pithom. We talked about this before, but what that's really expressing is that Israel began to duplicate the structure of the Egyptians in their lives, in their marriages, in their relationships, where the man is the top and the female at the bottom. So I duplicated that same structure in Egypt, and I began to copy this same structure where the man's up here, and I believe that through all that, it created an envy in you. Well, I'm above you because I am the man of the house. And you're beneath me, and you got to do what I say because I'm the man of the house. In return, that creates a serpent. So now what happens, you strike your brother, a serpent. But envy grew from you being in an inferior position. We're to be equal. My son is my equal. He's my right hand. He's not underneath me. I think about something that Tracy said, that the way, I can't recall it completely how he put it, but he said the way to train a child is for the child to duplicate what the father or the parents do. So if the stove is hot, the parent puts his hand near the stove and he pulls it back, it's hot. And so the child learns this is what hot is. This is training you like my equal, but if you put your hand in the stove and I spank you, then I'm treating you as someone inferior to me. And that makes you lose value. In return, you carry guilt. So I just appreciate the whole conversation, and I appreciate a lot of the wisdom that Tracy shared, because this really it really exposes where the guilt lies that you carry. And so we have work to do to remove that in our relationship. I was also thinking about something that Tracy had said earlier, a few sessions ago, when he was talking about the reason why we give to the poor is that you give to the poor so that the poor, if you're driving a nice car, and you got this nice house, you got all this nice stuff, and the poor sees what you have, and then they begin to desire the same thing that you have. So what happens eventually, they just take from you. So you give to the poor so that the poor doesn't develop these envious thoughts, these serpents in their minds to take from you. So it's interesting when you explain envy. That was going through my mind as you, as Trace, as you were bringing out what envy is. Now I appreciate the whole conversation.
Great point, Chris. I like that. That was good.
Hey, Chris, just so you know, you made me tear up a little bit, man.
I would say to you, Chris, as an encouragement, and I say this to everybody. I said it to someone earlier. Understand the difference between rebuke and reproof, or reproof and rebuke. I'm using biblical terms strongly used in the book of Proverbs and how it is used. Reproof is when something is, let's say, deficient, and you are investing in it, so value in it so that it can perform correctly. Reproof is pointing out some of the weaknesses or brokenness or damages of that person, or giving instruction before a wrong is given. That is reproof. Rebuke is after you have received all of the information and you have proven that you know how to act and perform, and you still choose to perform in an adverse way, then it's rebuke. Now, the way God works in reproof is this. Just because he told you something about it today don't mean that he thought you were going to change it right away. He understood that you had to have value, and he had to put value, and it was going to take time. So he reminds you, you did this again, you did this again, this is a little off, this is wrong, this is not good. How we react to God when he does that, or to people when they do that, is you are condemning me. It's not condemnation. Learn the difference between the two. Because if you really use the word condemnation, it is a natural thing, meaning if I smoke pot, or no, not, I want to say smoke pot, if I become excessive in drinking alcohol, and I know that drinking alcohol is not good, but I do it and it becomes excessive, and I begin to have kidney failure, that kidney failure is rebuke. That's the context of rebuke. That's the context of condemnation. It's a neutral point. It's not, I am mad at you because you didn't do what I said. I'm mad at you, and so I'm going to do this to you. It's never that. In God's body, it's always, he tells you ahead of time, if you don't put the oil in the car, if you don't put oil in the car, the motor's going to break down. Condemnation is the motor breaking down because I failed to put oil in the car after I chose not to put it in there. That's condemnation. That is rebuke. So if you're reading in Proverbs, you're going to say here, a foolish man does this with reproof, and a foolish man does this with rebuke. And it tells you how a foolish man handles both of them, meaning he rejects reproof. He rejects it. He doesn't say, he does not accept that. And it leaves him in a bad position. Then after rejecting reproof, you will receive rebuke, because you'll continue on doing that bad behavior and you will fail. That is neutral point, God. He is not as we are, human beings that have the same nature of hate in essence, if you understand what I'm saying. So that means, Chris, that if you make mistakes in raising your children, God can reprove you until you change.
Very powerful. Very, very powerful. I have to take this home, man. I got to really think about this instead of lie.
Just because someone comes to you and says, look, you did this again and you messed up or whatever, there is a lot of time given for a person, and that time might not be the same for everybody. What matters the most is that that person stays vulnerable while he is going through the process. That's what God honors. That's what keeps God from something destroying you. When you're in the process, I'm completely naked all the time.
Mm.
Anybody else?
Would you say, I'm you spoke on a really deep language when you spoke about reproof, rebuke, and the way that works. So I'm trying to process all of this. Would you say reproof? Would you say reproof and rebuke are would they fall under the forms of judgment?
Yes.
Okay.
They cover both words encompass judgment.
Okay.
I like even the word reprove, because it kind of reminds me of patience in terms of, in that section of it, it is to prove that you have the ability to grow, to be nourished. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, I just like reprove because it, so yeah.
Good stuff, Jay. Love it.
Mm.
All right. Well, we've been on for a while. Everybody speak your piece.
Mike, I ain't heard nothing from you the whole time, man. You know what I'm saying, man? I ain't heard nothing from you.
It's been a whole lot. I've been in the process of receiving this past couple weeks. Work has been challenging me and to bring me low, to humble me, to show me where my ideas of how it should be need to be killed or to die, especially in how I think I should obtain my own business or my own way of providing for myself when things will be provided for me. Another big thing that's been sticking out in my head is Jalen said the hardest thing to do is ask for help. And in order to remove envy, jealousy, or covet is to be vulnerable. If you're vulnerable, so one of my biggest wrestling points is when is the best time to ask for help? Feeling like I can receive what I need. I don't need to ask for help. So part of asking for help would be calling Uncle Tracy, calling CJ, calling Jalen, calling Micaiah, calling Chris Jr., anyone that can provide something for me where I'm lacking or not seeing the big picture. So I want to work on that. And so if I call and you don't answer, I'm not going to take that as defeat. I'm just going to keep knocking. So And as well as I'm currently saving up so that I can potentially get an apartment in Ohio, be closer to community, because I know that I need help and I'm going to be asking for help. So that's just what I've heard so far and what I'm continuing to do.
We are here for you, Michael.
That
for-
community, that love, is like the biggest savior. It's the biggest thing that has ever helped me. So
And as for me, not to say it as an excuse, but there were a couple of times where I wanted to jump in, and I'm gonna try not to throw it all in at the end, just to be conscious of everyone's time. And it's not an excuse because on one hand, everything that was shared, I thought was really I appreciated, and even as far as just the progression of where the Zoom meeting started, where the session started, I thought it was really good. One couple things that just have come to mind, I'm gonna highlight real quick, was there is on when Micaiah and Uncle Tracy were talking a little bit more in depth about envy, that was something that was interesting to me. Envious points that are created between a man and a woman in a relationship, in a marriage, for example. And I think that you all spoke to envious points that you've had. It made me think, for example, and Uncle Tracy probably can see this, especially as much as he has worked with this, but the contention between carefree and responsible, and how and where weights are placed. One, not necessarily, well, not specifically in a marriage, but in relationships, how we handle or push or try to push off or try to make up for the weights that we experience. And anyway, I saw part of that in the enmity, if you want to say that, between carefree and responsible. Also, when you guys were talking specifically about the relationship between a man and a woman, and it also made me think of anger and passive aggressive behavior, because I think that if you talk about a man who is repressed, or sorry, a man who is oppressed, using an example that I think Chad brought out, man, slave who's repressed or oppressed, excuse me, oppressed by his master, and then he takes that and then unleashes it within his home and in his within his family. That is, in my mind, no matter if it is brute aggression or whatever it is, that is passive aggression. The reason why it's interesting to me is also within that framework of what you guys shared. I have, part of the picture that I got is how the woman or the wife then will, I feel like this is especially apparent in relationships between the woman and her children, and how she wrestles with the oppression that she feels or that she is under, and how that's placed on her children. I think that's something that also came to mind. But one last thing is the point of covetousness, because there is one of the 10 commandments talks about not coveting the whatever it may be of thy neighbor. And it really stuck out in my mind, especially when Uncle Tracy mentioned in the story of David, where the prophet goes to him and says something to the effect of any lack that you had, any lack that you have could have been fulfilled, anything that you needed, sort of idea. And it made me think of the verse about God giving liberally, but even the point of coveting something, or covetousness and what it looks like. Just kind of comparing that to the examples that you all gave of envy. And then there's one more point of jealousy in a neutral. And I might just save this for a conversation afterwards, but there, especially when you talk about God being your provider, receive and give, I am wondering if I'm wondering specifically about pointed expression of jealousy, which in my mind kind of looks like how someone within a community withholds because of what they believe is theirs or is rightfully theirs. And that's not to take away from what Uncle Tracy established as the foundation of jealousy being, of what jealousy is, but just something that kind of popped into my mind of what it, a misrepresentation in one sense, or I guess, of what it looks like or what it can cause people to do if it is not rectified. But anyway, those are just a couple of the things that were going in my mind that kind of popped up at various times I wanted to share. But again, I appreciated the conversation, so that's all I got.
Thanks, CJ. Anybody else?
I appreciated the conversation as well. And so some of the things kind of just brought to me, I was thinking about for me how, you know, my life experiences, and you were talking about like coming from a place of immaturity and then coming to a place of maturity, has allowed me to be able to kind of like think about, you know, where I was growing up, and then you know, even the experiences that you all have mentioned as far as relationships and having children. And well, I just have a son, but even coming up to going through adversity, realizing, being forced to, well, yeah, pretty much being forced to become very vulnerable in a lot of ways, especially, you know, becoming quote unquote disabled, allows you, or kind of put me in a position where I've had to go through and experience things that I would, you know, I never have imagined me, you know, having to do, like even just the basic thing of, you know, one day you're walking and the next day you're not, and there, you know, having to like mentally adjust to that, that change, but being able to come to the point, or you know, or through the process of time, and I won't say that I've fully realized it even at this point, but I know, like without a shadow of a doubt, that I'm a miracle and that God has provided for me. He provided for me in that particular situation, and as I'm going forward, He is providing for myself and our family, and it's just one of those things that with all of the adversity I think that I've faced has just reinforced the fact that God is providing for me. Like, and you know, it's difficult to really get to that point because of, you know, how we're raised, you know, being products of our environment, being products of the dominant society, the way that things are, as far as like, you know, men being providers, men having to work, you know, kind of going to what you guys were talking about, Uncle Chris was talking about, and then being in a put into a place where I don't have that ability, as far as physically not being able to do that, and just going through that mindset shift, and realizing that God still has provided for us through all of that. Not being able to traditionally, provide for the family and different things like that. But I'm kind of losing my train of thought. But I just wanted to kind of like, these are the things that kind of came to my mind based off of what was spoken, and how my experience has been just coming from my life, and then being to this particular point where I'm at, where I'm not like, I feel like I'm not necessarily young, but I'm not up there with you guys. I just turned 35, so it's like kind of feeling the point, kind of in the, as far as the life, where I've had a decent amount of life experience, but I still have a lot more to go. So I don't know if you guys can relate to that, or see where I'm coming from. Those are a couple of things that kind of came to my mind. I wanted to get off my chest.
Good stuff, Brian. I want to encourage you that you did not lose your value just because of your position. You are have a lot of value, have room to receive a whole bunch, so that you have value. And what that value will do is make you use your voice. And that is when you will feel fulfilled. So what value does is it makes you use your voice. It makes you command life into others. That's what value does. It's very powerful. It makes you command life into others. And when you do that, you feel fulfilled. That's what fulfillment is. That's my encouragement.
Oh, one more thing too, and thank you so much. Michael was talking about coming up here to Ohio. I just want to remind you, I live here. I'm in North Canton. So I definitely I gotta get plugged into the community for sure, especially with it being so close. So so y'all don't forget about me over here.
Good stuff. All right. If everybody is satisfied, we will close and do it again next week. Appreciate it. Good stuff, everybody. Young fellas, be prepared. Y'all be prepared for next week. Sean, what, you gonna say something?
You can speak.
All right. We'll see you. Are you saying to him to speak? Go ahead, Sean.
What?